All right, guys. So from last week, we're going to reiterate a little bit. Now, we're going back to visit the saving of the child just for a minute, okay? Now let's just, because there are blended families now more than ever. So I know that you said those who have your biological children, that's great. But now we're going to go to the husband who has the biological child and the wife is not the real mother, okay? So we're gonna take this into consideration. The husband again goes out and he saves the child, brings him back to safety, to shore. However, the wife is still out there in the ocean, okay? But a boat comes by and picks her up and takes her back to shore. So when she gets to shore, what do you think that narrative will be between the husband and the wife? Do you think that the marriage will last? Would yours last? Now, keep in mind, this is blended family. It's not biological, like we said before. So you all have talked about, yes, save my child, save our children, or save our child. This is a different story. And truth be told, blended families are difficult. They're sometimes very difficult to come together. And sometimes, again, like we talked before, perhaps one doesn't like the other. That's reality. So the question is, again, what do you think that narrative will be when the wife gets to shore? That wife of the husband, not of the not of the child. What do you think will happen? And would your marriage last? And we're going to be very transparent and honest because again, we have people that are coming on that are looking at this after this is all over and they are making comments and we are helping people. So I want you all to be as honest as, well, just be honest. That's it. So who would like to go first? Anyone brave enough to go first?
I'll go first. Well,
You want to go first?
yeah. Once again, you're still talking wife. You know, you're still
or husband,
talking
it
wife.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Right, a wife or a husband, it doesn't matter because they still a married couple.
Yes.
That's still, as far as the Bible is concerned, the wife is to be saved.
No, she already said, no, she said that the daughter or the child was already there.
But they're blended family.
Right.
Yes.
They're blended family.
Right.
And that's, okay, let's say it's my daughter, but my wife is not her mother. That's what you're
correct.
saying, right?
That's
but
correct.
Still, she is my wife.
Yes.
You know, she's still a gift from God. She is my wife. So I would have to step up to my wife. I know it's a hard decision. Earthly speaking, in the worldly term, they would probably say, hey, I'll save my daughter because, you know, she's of my blood. And like they said last week, you know, she haven't had her chance to live or nothing like that. But if I don't save my wife and a boat come by and bring her to shore, that marriage is like, that's a red flag. That's a no-brainer. She's gone because she's gonna know right there I chose my daughter over her, you know, and she's supposed to be my wife. So she's gone. That my marriage is on the rocks, you know, and I'm gonna have to talk sideways to try and save her, you know, because you don't listen to nothing I got to say because I made my decision, you know. You're right. Like, oh, you gonna let me out there to Paris? Thank to God that somebody came by and brought me to shore. But you know, my marriage overall, just make a long story short, that's a red flag. That's a no-brainer. She's gone.
Gone.
Time over. Okay.
You can't even say anything to that, right? Really? I mean, there's nothing that you can say.
No, she's gone.
No.
Now, I think Kim had, because Kim and I discussed this beforehand. So Kim had a different perspective on it. What was that?
Oh, me? Oh,
Yeah, you, Kim.
well, you know, I posed that question to my husband, and the first thing he said, my daughter. And basically it was the same thing that, you know, everyone was saying. She got, you know, more life to live and things like that. And I said, well, biblically, I'm your wife.
Mhm.
And I should be the one, you know, you would save. He said, yeah. He said, then he went back to the world like, okay, but it is, you know, still.
Okay, but what would that narrative look like? Let's put yourself in that in his shoes. Let's say he saved his son, if he had a son, and left you out in the ocean for the sharks or whoever else to get you. Okay, but somebody else came out and saved you. You get to shore. What do you say to him?
Bro, we got some problems because I don't think we gonna we not work, but we probably won't work it out. But then again, we can work it out. But what's going to happen? The trust is going to be gone, and if something else come up, you know, it's probably a deal breaker. Well, I'm gonna be out of there, because for one, you didn't save me in the beginning. Somebody else saved me, so it appear they care for me more than you do. Versus, you know, and we got to live together. So if something else come up, in my mind, it's gonna be the same situation. You're gonna choose your daughter over me, no matter what the situation may be. So it may get to the point where no matter what happens, or you know, I'm gonna just automatic go to. He's gonna save his daughter. It's gonna be like forget me, basically. So we may not make it through, and we may because something gonna come up again. And in my mind, I'm gonna still be thinking that.
The trust is gone.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Robin, them have their hands up.
Robin?
I mean, and just to be real, it's gonna be a whole lot of bad words being said.
Yeah.
When I see them. I mean, just
Oh, yeah.
real. It's gonna be a whole lot of
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and that's even if the
Keeping it
situation was
real,
reversed,
yes.
I'm sure he
That's
would
right.
do the same to me. So that's just keeping it real. And I
Right.
think I don't know if instinctively he would save his daughter or whatever, or do you always go back and say, okay, biblically I'm gonna save, or you just your instinct is let me save my child? Yeah, I don't know.
My instinct is my wife.
Yeah.
That's my
Your
instinct.
instinct.
My wife. No doubt about it.
I'm just asking a question
Well, I'm
because
just
some
saying,
people
that's my
instinct
instinct.
is automatically to save a child if somebody's is young, you know. So you know.
So you gotta understand this in the earthly realm, that even though he saved the daughter, he still gets to live. You understand? He still gets to live, but she don't. If she perished, but if a boat bring her in and she can say, "Oh, you left me out there to die, but you're gonna live your life on, and you probably end up remarrying again and all that good news." So that's a red flag.
It's just not gonna work.
I don't think that it'll work.
Yeah, I don't either. I really don't. Yeah. I mean, and I know that forgiveness is the number one thing that we say that we must do. And we forgive, but how do you forget something like that?
Yeah.
You're never gonna forget it. But you know, hey.
Yeah. So Keitha, your face is kind of frowned up. What's up with that?
No, I'm listening. I'm taking it all in.
Okay.
No.
You don't know what you would do.
Oh, what I would do?
If you got to shore.
What I would do?
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be good. It would not be good. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would not be good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's all around. Tony, you have anything to say?
He on mute.
Yeah, I am. Okay, thanks. But yeah, like I said, as the gentleman said from the beginning, you know, it's his spouse. But then, of course, if I get to shore and look at her and she didn't save me, I will have some choice words. I just gotta be honest and if it is what it is. I would say, you know, you wasn't the person I really thought that you was, because
Right.
it wasn't biblical. What you did, that's not biblical. But you know, I think that it would cause some issues. It would, because therefore my trust is gone. Once the trust is gone, guess what? You have nothing else.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
That's good. I mean, and I'm thankful that you all are honest, because these are real life situations, really. I mean, we never know what tomorrow may bring. We never know what comes about, but we're going to make them as real as possible. Now, on the other hand, we're going to talk about, okay, you have a husband and a wife. Now, this is a very difficult decision, or actually it's just a difficult conversation. You have a husband and a wife, and I know this has happened. When we were younger, much younger, there was a couple who went to a party, and while they were at the party, there was a fire, and they had 6 children. And I think the ages, the oldest was 12 and the youngest was about 4 or something like that.
About 4.
And the house caught on fire, and all of the children died. Came back home to a burning house, and the children were in the house. They are still together, and this has got to be over 40 years ago, because we were really young. Okay, this has to be over 40 years ago. They're still married. There are 2 situations to that. Let's say, well, they were together. So when they came home, that guilt, or I don't know if it's guilt or whatever, they had to both live with that. However, if it were a husband who was at work, and there was the wife, she went out and did what she wanted to do and left the children there, and there's a fire and the same thing happened, the children perish. Will that marriage last, as opposed to the one that they made that decision to go out, and as a result, the children died? And this is difficult. I'm telling y'all, but things like this happen. And I would like your point of view on what you think you would do, because nobody knows exactly what they would do in a situation like that. But what do you think you would do, or do you think your marriage would last? And I gave 2 scenarios. So can someone speak on both of them or one of them? Oh, that's quiet. Tony?
Yeah, I looked for the little hand. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. But you know, this is unreal. You said it happened like 40 years ago, and this is real life. And actually, I had to look because I thought you was talking about my family member. The same situation happened to my family. My cousin and I were the same age. It is one of the children. It was 5 kids, I believe, and it was about 43 years ago. My uncle and aunt, they was at a Christmas function, and there was all 5 kids was home. Well, they had 6 children, but one was gone, older and gone, and the other 5 was there, and they lost 4 of the kids that night. The 5th child ended up dying a couple of days later, and the community was actually mad at them because the parents was out, they was out celebrating together, but the kids was big enough to take care of each other, but the tree fell over and it caused a fire. But you know, my uncle and aunt stayed remarried. They was married, and you know, they had no children, of course, but one that was grown and gone. But the community was mad at the parents because they was at a Christmas function. You know, we all had left kids and went out to other places, but perhaps this happened. And my uncle and aunt stayed married. Well, actually, my uncle died several years ago, but my aunt, she's still here today. But, you know, for a long time, I mean, people was mad at them because their kids had passed away. They feel like they should have been there. But on the same token is, again, it's back to the Bible. You gotta, cling to your spouse. But, overall to say is that we really don't know how things would be until it actually happened. But real life, it happened to my family. And that was over 40 some years ago. And they remarried. They loved each other. Whenever you saw one, you always saw both of them. But and it actually happened to family members. But they remained married and had a great life together.
Okay. Anyone else can speak to that? Robin. Okay, yes.
I'll say something right quick. Like you said, that's a tough scenario. That's a really tough one. But no one can predict what will or will not happen if you leave home. And I'm almost certain that they probably have left home before and nothing has happened.
Right.
So you anticipate on your kids being as safe as possible when you leave home. You do set a boundary of rules, some do's and don'ts when you're gone, regardless of what their age is or are. So it was not to be, known or expected of something like tragedy such as that to take place. So, and I'm just going to make it short. When you go back to the Bible, you must not forget your vows when you said, "For death do us part," through thick and thin, through good and bad. You have to be submissive to certain things. Sometimes they're really tough to really bond together, but that shows the foundation of your marriage. Just like he said, they stayed together, and he passed, but she's still living, but they stayed together. And that's what sometimes your marriage is put to a test. And if that's one of the toughest tests that I think you possibly could face as a married couple when you lose your sibling. So by them sticking together, that showed me that they had a strong biblical bond between each other. They fought it together and they battled it together. They didn't separate. So she had to deal with this on her own, and he had to deal with it on his own. They dealt with it together as a couple, and that's the way it should be.
Okay, so now that's that one scenario where they were both together, just like Tony said, and just like Keith and I witnessed when we were little. Let's go to the other side. Again, the husband is at work. The wife is out doing whatever she wants to do, and the children are at home. There's a fire. The children die. Do you think that marriage will last?
I don't.
Where is he?
So.
He's at work.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't think so, because it depends on the discussions that they had before. Was it something breaking down in the relationship prior to all of her making a decision to go out? Was this a common for her to go out? Maybe was she sneaking out, or was it that whatever was going on? I think that's tough, because you will always look back. You're going to always, when you shouldn't, throw stuff in somebody's face during an argument. If they get an argument about something, it's going to probably lead to where you did X, Y, and Z.
It will always be a throne.
It's going to always be in the back, even if you don't say it. It's going to be in the back of your mind. The reason we don't, or our children pass, is because you made a decision to do X, Y, and Z. And just living with that guilt alone, I think nothing is impossible, but that's hard to deal with.
Yeah. That guilt. And then the blame game. It's gonna always be a blame. No matter what.
Of course.
Wow. Anyone else can speak on that? Tiffany, you're kind of quiet.
I think Kaylin.
Oh, Kaylin? Yes. Okay, Kaylin. Yes.
I was just going to say that it's hard, both situations. Well, one, an unexpected grief causes that's something we're experiencing. And that causes a whole realm of emotions. And it's stronger when it's two of them that went out together. But like Pat said, like when you didn't go out, the resentment of, the blame, every argument, it'll always be, well, you left. So I agree with that.
Yeah, that's difficult. Tiffany, you want to say anything, or Z, before we go on?
I don't have anything to say to that one.
Okay, Z.
I think you would definitely need some counseling, on either scenario.
I agree.
I would get counseling to be able to deal with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, y'all, but it happens every day. It does. And so that's why I wanted to speak on it, because we don't know if we ourselves will encounter something like that, or we find ourselves in a situation where we can help somebody else, or, talk about it. So it's just good to talk about. This is a what if. This is always a what if. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next question. What time is it? Wow, this is good. Okay. We're going to talk about Z. We're going to reiterate one more thing from last week, and that is when Tony talked about waiting until you get married to have sex, which was a great ending. But Z wanted to add something to that. So Z, you have the floor.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's important to wait until you get married to have sex, because if you're having premarital sex before you get married, it can kind of cloud your thinking, and well, so busy, being sexually active with your partner and stuff, you might miss some red flags that you need to see going forward.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I was going to say. And some people say, well, I'm going to sample my goodies before I get married, but that's no guarantee that your marriage is going to be any better either way.
So it's just better to wait, biblically and emotionally.
You can talk about, huh?
Is it just better to wait biblically and emotionally? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can talk about what your preferences are going forward in a marriage. About what you like and dislike. But you don't have to act those things out. But you can, like have that conversation and say, well, I like this and I like that, and make sure that y'all are on, one accord or on the same page. But actually going through with it and being sexually active, it opens up a whole lot of can of worms before you get married, I believe.
Yes, it does. Okay. Anyone else on that subject before we move on? Kaylin?
I guess I have a question. I certainly agree now, waiting until you're married to have sex. But what if that person is taking like 5 years and you're engaged? Like,
I think that's
what if you're engaged for 5 years?
Would you be engaged for 5 years?
That happens.
Hey, want to say something?
Okay, but hold on before we're gonna finish her up. Okay, so why would you be engaged to someone for 5 years?
You never, like, different circumstances. There could be financial things. There could be, maybe you're not, a lot of people want to hold you down, but don't want to like actually fully commit. They just don't want you to be with anyone else. So those are some things.
Well, then why would you want to marry someone like that?
Yeah.
So my question, I want to address the men now, because I really want you all to speak to her on this issue. She just asked an important question. Why would you be engaged to someone for 5 years? Tony? Wait a minute, I can't hit you're muted. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, she said 2 great things there, financial, but guess what? If you can have debt before you get into marriage, and guess what? You can have debt after you're in the marriage.
Yeah,
so financial is an excuse. Financial is definitely an excuse. Commitment, you're in it or you're not. But 5 years is a long time. You got to say to yourself, I'm willing to date 1 year, whether he across seas, or whether I'm willing to date 10 years. The bottom line is your preference. If you said, no, I can't date 2 years, you got to put limitation on yourself and say, this is what I'm going to do. If it doesn't work this way, I'm going to drive on. Nobody was home. So you got to set your goals, because their goals may not match up with your goals. And they're never gonna match up, but in conversation with each other, you come to a great part in life and saying, you know, when we met, you know, again, we met within 2 weeks, we was engaged. 6 months later, we was walking down the aisle. Best thing ever could have ever happened to me. I still say it today. At first, I wanted to wait. When I first met her, I said, no, I don't even want to date right now. I just want to be friends with you for a while. But then I wanted to figure her out. So I'm studying her to see if this is the right one for me. And everything, all the checks was there. We talked about everything. We had long conversation. For the first night we talked, we stayed on the phone. If she's here now, but she's not feeling too good tonight. We stayed on the phone about 12 hours on a cell phone. You know, we had to keep plugging it up and switching. That's what we had to do, because we knew right then, I knew something was there. Because you know what? You don't waste time with somebody you know is not going anywhere. So we waste, even though that we waste so much, not wasted, we talked so long, 12 hours. You know, I got off work, talked, went to sleep, fell asleep on, and guess what? We were still on the phone with each other. So I knew right then the commitment was there. I knew that she was the one for me. And you know, when you know what you know right now, whether you studied for that test, you did really well. When you make a A, you know that you got a 90 something. You know when you did really well. And the same thing about a relationship. Don't blame it on financial. Don't blame it, because you know what? You're gonna have debt either way it go. So that's gonna be there. It's just that if this person is ready to commit, if two people are ready to commit, then guess what? It's a win-win situation. If you're not ready to commit, say, I gotta go. You know, and that's the best thing I say. You know when the time is right. The financial, we can blame. Yeah, I had debt when I met her. You know, first thing we talked about was debt. You know, I want to know because when I visited her home, I saw some little kid's picture on the mantle. The first thing I asked, I said, well, have you ever been married? She told me I'd never been divorced. I said, okay. I didn't get it, but I got it for a couple of minutes. And I said, well, how about your kids there? And she said, kids, I don't have any children. And I said, but that one looked just like you. I wanted to find out, because if she had kids, guess what? I was no longer interested, because I didn't want to, for me, there's nothing wrong with it. I didn't want to go into a relationship with someone who had children, because I was in a relationship before. I got attached to someone else's child. So when her and I had problems, I was connected to her son. And then I lost both of them at the same time. So I was like, okay, it was fine for me to lose her, but I didn't want to lose him. So, but everything that was cut off. I was like, for me, I'll never do it again. If you got a kid, I'm turning the other way. You tell me that you got, you know, if it's a puppy, it's a different story. Yeah, but a kid, I tell you anything that you don't want to hear.
Right.
You know, but I had to set boundaries for myself. So you got to do the same thing. You got to say, you know what? Do I want this relationship with a man who have a child or not? You know, and people have kids from previous marriage. You know, before that, I was married before. We didn't have any kids, but when we broke up, it was a perfect breakup. Now today, we're good friends. You know, we speak to each other whenever I see her. We're good friends, but we didn't have any kids together. But there's something to think about, you know, in your relationship. Whether this person has kids, responsibility, and if he clings to his mother, that's a #1 clue that this is a good guy. Because a guy that treats his mama well and talk to her well, that lets you know right then he know how to talk to another female. He's gonna have respect.
Okay.
And that little scenario really works.
All right, Steve, can you speak to that? Thank you, Tony.
Oh, you want to see yourself out on the
Oh, wow. If he needs to linger 5 years, Kaylin, without making any form of commitment, I mean, he's not the one for you. Just like he was saying down below. He said, you know, if he's thinking it's a debt problem, then there's gonna always be debt. Because it doesn't take anybody 5 years to realize whether or not they want to be seriously involved with a woman. Because I mean, when I met Rob, I kind of knew right off the bat, you know, she was like, yeah, I've been like this for a long time. I said, hey, well, I'll marry you. You know, I mean, I've been seeing
There's
her
a story
around,
behind this,
but
y'all.
I've been seeing her around, but I'm like, I'll marry you. And, you know, but we talked, but I knew right off the bat, you know, that she fit the criteria, you know, we talked, Caitlin. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, conversation is the key. Ask questions. They are so very important. You need not let someone just keep giving you stories and reasons why they're not giving you facts. They're just giving you excuses and reasons why they can't do this. Oh, well, I can't marry you. Well, maybe we need to wait another year. Maybe we need to wait. No, that's a bad sign. That's a red flag. Because he ought to know right off the bat from the conversation. He said they talked 12 hours. There it is. Talk to him, no matter how long it takes. Talk to him. Get in his head. Find out what he's like. Find out what his goals in life is. If he can't hold a job, you'll know. If he don't know how to talk to you, and you'll know. But if he respects you, and if he wants you bad enough, he'll wait. No problem. He will wait. And you know what? Something else that might happen? He'll probably want to marry you a whole lot sooner than you think, because he knows where his prize is, and he's like, okay, I like her. She got respect for herself. She holds her head up. She's educated. She's smart. And you know, most men that want to just try to run a game is not going to really try and talk to you, because they're going to look at you and say, hey, well, she ain't going to go for that. But you got to set your goals, and you got to stick by it. And don't let no one carry you 4 and 5 years promising you this, promises. They don't never come true. So it doesn't take you forever to find out whether or not he want to be with you.
Yeah, that's good.
Like I said, Caitlin, like both the gentlemen said, if a man wants you, he will pursue
Exactly.
you. And like I said, if whether or not you may have a desire to have a huge big wedding, which is fine, but if he wants to marry you and say, let's go down and, you know, justice of peace, whatever, if he said, I really want to marry you, then hey, you know, if he's going with the flow, because sometimes, like I said, if he pursues you, like he said, his situation, 2 weeks or a month or 6 months, he may say, I want to marry you, you're the woman of my dreams. But if a man truly wants you, a woman to pursue, he's going to pursue you.
That's good.
Don't dedicate yourself and fall into their game, because they have a lot of games out there that they play. A lot of things they'll say. But when he wants to sue you, and I think your heart, I hope your heart would know, you know, that's the right one.
Yeah.
Introduce him to your Uncle Steve and me and your mom. You know, we got you. We got you.
Okay. Anyone else before we go on to the next subject?
I actually had my hand up, but
Yes.
I guess the men actually answered it, because I believe if a man truly wants you, and like you said, he gonna know off the bat. It ain't no playing around. It ain't no games. For someone to want to wait that long, they're not committed. They're afraid of commitment. They're fearful. It's something holding them back from doing it. But if he really wants you, like you said, he's going to wait, and then it's not going to be a long drawn out. When you say like that 5 year, no, you're married like between like a year and 2 years. You're not going to drag it out. He's not going to drag it out. And I was going to say, even with me and my husband, our situation was, me and him did have sexual relations, but I was convicted, and I told him, no, I don't want to do this. We're not going to have sex. And I said, but that's my choice. If you choose to move on because I made that choice, go ahead. I'm not going to hold you back. If you feel like you want to get your freak on with someone or whatever the case, by means, go ahead. And he said, no. He said, I'm going to wait for you. I said, now, wait, you're going to wait for me, but make sure you ain't sexing nobody else. So that's the difference. You got to make sure they waiting for you, but they not getting busy with no one else. And that's and so he said that he would wait, and he waited. And we got married like maybe 9 months later. We got married, 9 months later. He proposed, because in his mind, like some of the men, I ain't getting ready to be waiting all that long. I want to, be with my wife. So he did. We got married, or whatever the case. And also with that, I say, even when you wait, you will times come up with something happen. Just say your husband or wife on trip and maybe gone for weeks at a time. You waited so you can wait while they're gone. You're not gonna be trying to be like, I gotta have sex with somebody else. My wife or husband gone, I'm gonna get busy with somebody. That teaches you and it helps you to be able to wait for your husband or wife when in situations, even if it's something medically going on, you're not all hungry for sex because you went through that waiting period. So that also helps you in that area as well. So just, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Anyone else? Because we have one more subject, because I know this one is going to take a while, but I just want to make sure everybody speaks to that, because we have Tiffany and Kaylin, who've never been married. And we just want to speak to them as far as what they would probably expect or you would want them to have in a marriage. So anyone else before we move on? I thank you, and especially the men, I applaud you because I thank you for being honest. That's what we need now. We really do need men to step up to the plate and tell the truth and not sugarcoat anything. So it takes a village to raise a child, and it just takes a village to just help everybody. So I'm so grateful for the men that have come on to talk about that and be honest about it, transparent. Okay, so we are moving on. Since we are talking about waiting and we're talking about sex. Now this right here, if you go to the book and those who read the book, there's some things that people are, since the beginning of time, okay, have been indulging in. And we as a society just turn a blind eye to it. And we know that it's wrong, but we don't speak on it. And perhaps we've even indulged in it a couple of times or two. So, but we're going to be very honest with each other. In the book, it talks about two women who got married to this one man. And the man was just, he was just, like you said, he was just a freak. That's all he was. He's just a freak. And the sad part about that is once you become sexually just lascivious about just your sexual appetite, you have to keep going. Meaning it starts here, but that doesn't last, and you have to keep amping it up to the point where you start doing some really, what do we say? Just abominable things. And actually it's an abomination to God. So we're gonna talk about that. So the man who married the two women, and they didn't know each other, okay? And the women, and it says that women sometimes, and men too, but we're talking about women because I think women do this more often than men. They will do anything. Some women will do anything for a man to keep the man satisfied, to keep the man with them. Doesn't matter who or what he does. He could be horrible to her. He can call her out of her name, but she still stays. He can tell her, look, I want this, and she will do it, even though it goes against her moral compass. Men do it, but more often, women do it. So in the book, Ice Cream Mary Sundae, Sheila and Lorraine were no exception. Okay, they married the same man, but his behavior didn't change. And in fact, it got worse. So Lisa, let me set this up real quick. So the second marriage that he was in, he would do some crazy stuff. And again, those who read the book, like the last thing was he was in the park with his wife. And that was just ridiculous. Okay, so, but I want Lisa to speak to, after that event happened, how she felt as a woman and how she felt towards him. And then we're going to talk about this other stuff. Go ahead, Lisa.
All right.
I was so humiliated and angry that I didn't say a word to him when I got into the car. My right knee began to swell, and I had a deep scratch on my body, and I was shaking uncontrollably because I was cold. I looked over at my husband to see if he had an ounce of compassion for my condition. And he said, "Now that was an adventure, huh?" At that moment, a light bulb came on in my head. That was when I knew I had to get help. I needed to go to counseling and find out why I was willing to put my life in jeopardy in order to satisfy my husband's certifiable antics. Although I admit no one put a gun to my head, I kept asking myself, why would I go along with such utter nonsense? How does an intelligent woman make crazy decisions as I have that I would come to regret later? To be honest, in the beginning, I thought it as being adventurous. Then my husband began to suggest that we participate in outrageous, unnatural sexual acts such as bestiality. And I wasn't willing to participate. I don't know. I didn't know he was like that when we were dating. It was after we got married that he thought I would agree to such ungodly acts. What am I to do? I can't go on living like this. Should I leave him or should I stay?
Okay. So those who read the book, and I hope all of you have read the book, and if you haven't, I know that you're going to get it. But here's the deal. In any relationship, there's, it's no holds bar except for what God says is an abomination to him. Okay. So in the book, though, I have to come and actually not fluff it up, but just make sure that you all understand what I was talking about. It says, if you are into that kind of role playing, because couples role play all the time, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, nothing's wrong with it. And everybody has their preferences. But just make sure before you get married, you have that conversation. I think Kim said that, or Z said that you have that conversation. Look, I like this. I like maybe kinky stuff, and define what kinky stuff is, okay? Because some things can be way out there, and then some things, but you just don't want to participate. But you have to make sure that you are very honest with your partner and what you like to do. Now, that note, I said that it says you should agree, but if it's not according to the word of God, and that's what I left out in the book, that abomination, then that's off limits. But everything else, if that's what you all like to do, handcuffs or whatever else, it just doesn't, if whatever floats your boat, okay? Okay, so the bottom line is this. Bestiality is something that we don't talk about. Now, let me just ask you this, and we're going to be very honest about it. How many times have you heard any pastor, any speaker that we're supposed to be morally listening to talk about things like this? Bestiality. Does everybody know what bestiality is, first of all? Does everybody know what bestiality is? Sexual intercourse between a person and an animal. That's what bestiality is. That goes on all the time. Seriously. And people don't talk about it. And I'm just going to be real transparent. When I was living in New York, and 42nd Street back in the day, it was just horrible down there. That's what they were doing. They had shows that literally brought animals in on the stage, and people literally sat there in the audience and watched as people had sex with the horses and the dogs and whatever else. Yes. And I know that is so, you can't fathom it, but it happens every single day. Why aren't we talking about that? Why aren't we saying, you know what, that's just wrong in every sense of the word? Why do you think that the church is not addressing that? Because there's another book coming out after this one. It's called Church Chicks. And we're going to talk about the things that people let go on in the church, and God is not pleased with it. And I'm gonna tell y'all, I've made that my promise to God, that we have to really be, if we call ourselves Christians, we really have to be honest with each other and not sugarcoat it, and not let things just go to the side because this person who is probably a pastor or a bishop or whatever, they're doing it, but is it right? And because people who come to the church and they may be babes in Christ, they come to the church and they see this behavior. And because the elders who are with the pastor or the bishops or whoever else, the evangelists, they're doing what they're doing, and they're saying it's okay. And remember in the Bible, when I think it was Ezekiel, when God showed Ezekiel, this is in the Bible, y'all, so we really have to just be honest. When God showed Ezekiel, go to that wall right there. There's a hole in the wall. Look in that hole and see what you tell me what you see. And they were doing, the elders of the church were doing any and everything possible, just like this. They were doing this behind closed doors in the sanctuary, y'all. The Bible specifically says in the sanctuary. Tell me this. What do you all speak on that as far as bestiality is concerned? Because what Lisa just read, that happens. And because women, we're talking about Lorraine and Sheila, who were his wives, okay? They didn't know anything about that until they got married. He hid that from them. And then when they got married, that's when he revealed himself. But let me ask you this, just like we're talking about the red flags, do you think they saw the red flags before they got married? Question.
I don't think they seen the red flags with that, because that's something he hid from them. You know, I mean, well, in the book, I don't know. I guess I'm assuming they hadn't had that talk, basically. And that's, some people probably won't bring it up because of embarrassment, but it's deception. Or either the right questions was not asked. And so they hid it, they covered it up or went around it. It wasn't discussed, or they surfaced it. So more than likely, no, they didn't see it for that, because that's really, really deep. That's deep.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about, though, the talk. When Steve, he keeps reiterating the same thing. You have to ask the hard questions. These are difficult questions. And who wants to say, okay, well, are you into sex? Okay, we know you're into sex, but are you into sex with animals? Who asked that question, really? But you should.
I think you got people that do ask questions. They ask you, have you had sex with the same sex? I mean, you know.
But that's different from animals. Okay, that's what I'm saying. We have to have that hard, difficult talk. So has anybody ever asked that question to your potential mates?
Just raise your hand.
I can almost say no.
No.
Anybody?
I haven't asked a question, but going back to what you were stating before, whether or not she had red flags. I think sometimes we do have red flags, but we do see red flags, but we ignore it. Like if maybe every time that they had sex, keep up the ante a little bit, or kept being, let's do this, just something until, you get to elevate to that point, because it sounds like he's conniving. Some men are, or people, I don't say men, but people are conniving. They know what they want, but they, slowly by slowly, they'll get you to a point or suggest points in order for you to get to a certain level, and they introduce you to what they really, really want. So sometimes when you look back even on relationships.
Robin, hold on one second. I'm so sorry. The iPhone, we're hearing some background, so can you mute yourself? Okay, I'm sorry, Robin, go ahead.
I'm just saying sometimes in relationships, even with friends, or in love relationships, there are red flags to things that have happened, and then we go back and we reassess, and we're like, you know what, that happened, that was an indicator, but we don't see it when we're in the moment. So sometimes I think there are red flags, and they might have been there, but You
They
just
chose to
ignore it
ignore it.
because you're just into the moment.
And that's what Z
sometimes-
said. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sometimes it's brought in the relationship through
Mhm.
another couple
Another situation.
that's involved in it, but you're not aware of it until you befriend that couple through him or her.
Mhm.
So sometimes it appears like that, but I'm thinking, I'm always thinking biblical in the sense, even God had to tell Moses when the Israelites was down there doing all kinds of crazy stuff. He said, go get thou people because they're down there defiling themselves. They were doing everything under the sun, and God was so very unpleased at it. And even Moses had to at one time fall on his knees and pray to God to write a letter of divorcement because some of the people were being hardening of the heart to one another. I mean, one thing leads to another. When he just abomination, God really frowns on that. But when you involved with someone and they do that, you need to seriously get out of that relationship. You can get out of it if you don't want to be in it, because that's something that really God frowns on, and you're not going to get by with that one, that abomination stuff. Having sex with animals and stuff like that is not going to be pleasant in the eyes of God. So
No.
you can divorce that spouse or whoever it is if you choose to do so.
That's
I know
right.
I would. That's a red flag. That's a no-brainer. I'm gone.
That's a flag on fire.
That's
All
that's a,
kinds of
that's a flag on
transferred and
fire.
transpired from that,
What you say? That's a flag on fire. I like
Flag
that.
on
flag on
fire.
the flag on the flag. I'm gone. Like,
That flag
I like that.
burning up.
Yes.
They burning up. But I
I
think
like
Kaylin
that.
had their hand. Hey,
Yes.
Kaylin
Well,
had-
let me just because Steve brought up the Bible. Here's it. It says in Leviticus 18:23, a man must not defile himself by having sex with an animal. A woman must not offer herself to a male animal to have intercourse with it. This is a perverse act. This is Moses. He was speaking to the Israelites based on the instructions that he was given to God. So thank you for saying that, Steve. Yeah, I told you we're going Bible now. We can talk about all of this, but at the end of the day, we're going back to the Bible. So, and I appreciate it because again, we don't talk about this. So go back to now. Okay, does anybody else have Kaylin or Keitha? Which one?
I was just going to expound on the fact that you were questioning about, well, did she not know? Or, you have a lot of women who were virgins or have been virgins. So to them, all that is so new, and perhaps maybe she didn't know until she got into that. And
Right.
realized,
Yes, that's what it says.
Yeah. When she got into that, it was like, oh, so
Oh, wait a minute.
definitely, that
See,
was
that's what I was gonna
I
say.
think it's just so not, some women are very naive, and this is a stronghold. Sex, like I tell Caitlin all the time, that is a stronghold that you really have to be. These women will have to be delivered from that. That is a stronghold there.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that because we're going to talk about soul ties. That is a strong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we're going to talk about it.
That's really deep. In fact,
it says that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. I think, I think she may have been naive. Like I said, there's some women who were virgins when they first, met their husband or spouse or whatever, partner. And so they are thrusted into things. And it takes you by shock, like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, this is not anything that I know about, ever heard about. You said, because people don't talk about it.
There we go. That's it right there.
And that's what, as Kaylin's mom, we talk about everything, and I try not to have that face on, because you gotta have that, but you have to have that dialogue. You have to be what they call sometimes raw, because out here it is so different than, I was married 30 years ago, so it's totally different, but one thing, the Bible has never changed and will never change. So that's the foundation, but you got to meet these young girls and older women too, where they are, and try to help them, educate them, and talk about it, talk about everything,
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but that's what I wanted to say. I think that, you know, in this story scenario, they could have been virgins, you know, and was
And no
thrust.
one talked to them.
No
No
one
one gave
talked
them the
about it.
talk.
Mom, you know,
Yeah.
you know, Mom and I, we talked when I was 18 years old. You know, that's when we had a talk, you know,
Right.
but I'm just saying that's.
So let me go back to that then. As parents, how early do you talk to your children about stuff like this? Because nowadays it's raw out there. So when we had the talk, like she said, it might have been 18 years old, but now it's just a different generation
There's a whole
altogether.
other.
Yeah.
So when do you decide to have that talk with your child, those who are parents?
I think as early as you know your child, you know when they can comprehend certain things and they come to you with certain questions. And I think as early as the comprehension is there, that's when you have that discussion for me. I think it's an individual. I don't think it can be an age thing. It has to be the child's comprehension, you know. And when they come to you with questions and things going on at school, or you know, neighbors, or what they're doing, or things on television, you have to have that discussion right then. Because if you don't give them the answers and the truth about it, the street will. That's right, the street will.
Yeah.
And I think you have to introduce sometimes a little bit at a time as they're young, at their young age, just introducing them about their body, you know, their personal space, and then you know, kind of escalate things to them. But you don't, you know, like Keita said, you have to look at their comprehension level and what they're able to obtain, and sometimes the people that they hang around, the programs that they watch. And now with the cell phone, they get cell phones at 8, 9 years old. You have access to almost everything on a cell phone, unless you know you have restrictions. So you have to introduce them to, this is your body. Even going to the doctor, you have to introduce every little thing has to be talked about until they get to a certain age, and then you know you have to let them know. But you can't hide. No, to me, there's no hiding anything from kids.
Right.
You know, you have to be delicate about how you say it sometimes, and then sometimes when they get a little older, you have to be raw. This is what the deal is, you know. But you have to let them know.
And you have to let them know that they can come to you and talk to you about anything. And mommy, daddy won't get mad, but we need to have conversation. Anything that you want to talk about, you can talk to us about it. You know, you don't want them to feel like they can't come to you, because they'll get it somewhere else and they're going to get it straight out raw. Nobody's going to be
and sometimes
humble
wrong.
or meek with them.
You said wrong and raw, and wrong.
Wrong and raw.
Right.
Sometimes they get it wrong.
Yeah, that's good, y'all. I'm telling you. Well, that's what I said this conversation is about, because we definitely have to make sure that the younger generation is, first of all, like you said, comfortable in talking about this to their parents. But this is the sad part, is that a lot of times parents don't want to hear that. They don't even want to talk about stuff like that. What do you do?
That's true.
What do you do with something like that? Because it breaks my heart to see young girls who are doing any and everything and there's no guidance. So let me just ask you this, where does the guidance come from if it's not at home? Anyone?
It probably had to be something like a mentor, or maybe another mature family member, like an auntie or someone like that, that can lead and guide them. And if they're involved in church, that's what, you know, some of the church family or the mothers of the church, or, you know, they should be a guidance for them. Because sometimes, you know, you do have children that come from a lot of times you have children that come from broken homes where the parents are on drugs, or they are just not involved in their child's life. And many times they learn a lot of things from other people off the streets, off of TV, and they think it's right. So hopefully there is a mentor, meaning another family member or church family or someone that can help guide and lead them the right way, to instill right things into them.
Okay, so let's just go there then. You say the church family. Church is not like it used to be.
True.
It used to be where there were church mothers and they would correct us. If the skirt or we were, however, they were the compass. They were the moral compass for us. We looked to them for guidance. If we didn't get it at home, I mean, most of us did, but if you didn't, you could always go to the church and you would know that there's this older woman who really loved you, who really cared about you and your well-being. You don't have that now. It's rare to find that. So again, how do we navigate again through this life, and especially the next generation coming up, to help them, and especially the young girls? I'm not taking the boys and putting them to the side. I'm just making sure that the girls who are, like Keitha said, very naive. The men themselves even said, y'all run a game on them. And because they don't know, and because they are so love-starved, because they perhaps don't have a father at the house. I think most of us grew up with fathers in the house. I think most of us did. That makes a difference. But if you didn't have a father in the home, and you don't, you're like behind the 8 ball already, seriously. And we're just going to be honest. I know that single parenting sometimes it just can't be helped. But if you don't have a strong male figure in the house, it makes a big difference. So then therefore the woman, because she craves that male companionship, that relationship, they will get it anywhere. They want it. They just want it. And because, like Steve and Tony said, the guys know that. So they run a game on you. And then they'll tell you, if you don't, I'm going someplace else. So then go back to, some women will do anything for a man. Go back to, and I'm going to keep on saying this, where is the church, and what responsibility does the church, and I know it's just a building, but the people who claim to be Christians, where are they and what are they doing? Because this is my platform right here. I'm making this known. This is my ministry. And I just want to just speak to everybody. What are we doing as a society, as a village, to help these young girls get to the point where they're not making these mistakes, that they're not desperate for a man, that they're not giving their bodies away just because this man says, I love you. And then a week later, after he's gotten what he's gotten, he's gone and they're heartbroken. What do you say to that? Anyone?
Well, like you said, the church is not doing that, but there are like platforms. Me, myself personally, I am a mentor to like that young girls 21 and up, basically ages 21 and up, and which I do is Ladies with a Purpose. And that's what we basically do, mentor young women. And we, we spend time with them, we talk with them, do guidance and things like that. Mentor is just what it is. Mentor that is ongoing. It's not like coaching. Coaching is like for a specific time, which I do coaching as well. But mentoring is like following these young ladies, even older women, because you do have these older women that just continue to lay down and give their body to men, and because of this low self-esteem issues. And many people don't realize, or they think they just being cool, or it's cool, or I don't know if any of y'all ever heard this saying before, that a man will tell you he love you to get what he want in the bed, and a woman will give it to you because they think that they'll get your love. I don't know if you ever heard that, but many of times, that's the case. That's why they end up in the bedroom. But for the most part, and also trying to get through to a lot of these young women that's hard-headed. I know y'all have seen them, that you can't tell them nothing. They think they know what they talking about. You can't tell me, go sit your old tail down or something like that, but they don't realize when wisdom is talking to them. And they're going to remember that once they get into a predicament where they caught a disease, can't get rid of this disease, or he beating on them or whatever the case. then they're gonna remember Miss Lenette told me that, or Miss Robin told me that. God gonna bring it back to their memory.
Oh yeah.
And then that's when they're gonna realize they not old, they giving me some wisdom. They was teaching me something that I won't be in this place that I'm in now. And I'm not going to try to go deep with it, but with that soul tie, that soul tie is a such thing as spiritual husbands and spiritual wives. And they do not realize that when you get with your actual husband or wife, then you got those spirits fighting, which is that soul tie. And it could have been introduced, and I'm going to take it back there, just introduce whatever. If just say, for instance, that person you slept with that was not your spouse into threesomes, animals, or whatever the case, but then you get to realizing that you're wanting to do that, that's because the spirit been transferred. Those spirits been transferred.
That's right.
So,
that is
it is
absolutely
deep.
right.
People don't realize how deep it is.
Okay, so stop right there, Kim. Let's go back to who's supposed to be teaching that? It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. So why isn't it being taught? And let's be honest, y'all. Come on, why y'all so quiet?
I think people, those elders or the supposedly mothers of the church, they doing it themselves, or either they are not practicing those type of things, and they don't want to talk. They just don't. It's like a hush hush. Like I can't talk about stuff like that.
Because is it because of conviction? Because they're, like you said, they're doing it, or they just don't want to talk about it because it'll cause problems in the church.
Yeah,
I think they just try to keep it quiet because they don't want that topic of conversation to get out or get out of hand, because it could lead to other, situations, conversations. So
like what?
I don't know. I think it may lead to maybe somebody revealing some secrets that's going on inside their home or something. So, sometimes, just like unfortunately with the school system, you're supposed to tell certain things, or you're supposed to be able to confide in, I guess, teachers or whatever. But sometimes people turn a blind eye because, like, they know something's wrong, but they don't want to. I don't want to get involved in this. It's gonna, I can't deal with that. It's gonna blow up, or it's gonna lead to maybe people looking into something they're doing. I don't know. It's a complicated situation. It needs to be addressed, but sometimes people just turn a blind eye when they just feel like it's too much, maybe emotional for them to deal with, or it may bring back things that they've gone through and they don't want to deal with it. Sometimes people have gone through things, maybe molestation or something in their younger life, and they don't, they try to they just want to exit out. It could be a multitude of things of why people just, turn a blind eye to things that they know might be going on, or things they need to talk about, and they don't. So I don't know. That's a very complicated situation.
Maybe they're afraid of what some of the other people in the church might say when they address that type of situation or get into that type of topic. Because sometimes people that even if you got some of the elders in the church who want to speak on this, it may be offensive to the pastor or the first lady or somebody else who in the church that's that's a little higher up or something. They're like, okay, why do you want to talk about that? We don't really want to talk about that right now. Some people feel like they can't bring it up because other things might happen. I mean, even God told the Israelites when they was going into the land of Canaan, don't become equally yoked with those people. But sometimes you got to be very careful how you bring things up, even though the church is like a hospital and it's supposed to help save souls,
Yes.
So when you go there, you should be able to discuss anything and everything, and it should be an understanding between the people, whoever you decide to talk about. That it shouldn't be ignored, because it's like a hospital. That's what the church is. In the olden days, they called it the synagogue, But when you go in there are sick souls, and a lot of people is struggling with a lot of different issues. So it shouldn't be offensive to no one for whatever someone chooses to talk about, whatever topic comes up. It should be dealt with. It should be taught. It should be discussed, and it should come to a suitable solution. To help the young people, because they're in so many different avenues out there that they can get into that is not pleasing to the sight of God.
But also I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but I'm just thinking about as he said that, as I just remember growing up, and a lot of times, you know, my mom's generation, they hush about stuff.
Yes.
You know, they want to sweep stuff under the rug. You know, if somebody had a baby out of wedlock or something like, we don't talk about that. You know, so these are the
It was
same people that
taboo.
are supposed to be the elders of the
Yes,
church. They're supposed to be the ones that's supposed to be leading us. So they'll sweep stuff under the rug, and you get into that like, no, we're not gonna talk about that. Everybody know the secret. We ain't gonna talk about it. You know, that's such and such a child. That ain't his baby. Blah blah. But we're not gonna talk about that. So you know, you get into that, and you see how maybe your grandparents had sweep stuff on the rug, and your mother, and you know, so sometimes, and you want to open up, but you kind of scared to bring certain things up because the secret, you know, you're not supposed to bring that up. It's going to offend somebody, you know.
Right.
I don't know.
Or it might
Okay,
open up
so-
that can. It
Yeah,
might
well,
open up
yeah,
that
you're
can
right.
of secrets coming out too.
Exactly. And there are a lot of things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay. So again, we know these things, but what do we do? And how is it that because I'm telling y'all, we have to make up in our minds, really, in our hearts, because it's a hard issue. All of this we're talking about, this is a hard issue. It is about helping your fellow man. It is about people who are hurting, just like Steve said. People are hurting and they don't know what to do and they don't know where to go. We're supposed to go to the church if we can't go anywhere else. But again, the church has changed so much. We are the church, y'all. We are the church. So even if there's this building with thousands of people in it, it only takes one person. It only takes one person to turn things around, to say, look, this is wrong. I don't care if you're the pastor. I don't care if you're the elder. I don't care who you are. This is wrong. And there has to be, this issue has to be righted. So that means that we have to take a bold stand. And sometimes that's just not popular. But then for me, I say, and I can't speak for anybody else, but I have made up in my mind, I would rather be out with man than God any day, because I'm going to be held accountable for this. If I know it, the blood is on my hands. If you know it, the blood is on your hands. That's just the bottom line. And we have to answer to no one but God. And that's a terrible thing. I think I'm like, Lord, when you take me home, all I want to say is, I want to hear you say, well done, well done. But you didn't sugarcoat anything. You didn't turn a blind eye. You saw something and you spoke on it. That's it. And in doing so, we do help other people. But because we are secretive, like Robin just said, we grew up with that generation. Don't say anything.
What goes on in this house stays in this house.
In this
That's
house.
the thing.
And then we keep perpetuating that same thing. And then so our generation does the same thing that the mothers did, our mothers did. And then our children see what we do. And it's just, so it just keeps going on. It's basically, it's a generational curse. That's what it is. And at some point, we have to stop. We have to stop that curse. So again, I hope that you all get convicted. I hope your hearts get convicted. And when you see wrong, you speak on it. Because that's the right thing to do. That's it. So y'all, on that note, we are out of time. But does anybody else want to say anything to that? Because I just believe that even though we're the church, so we can't just blame a building or a pastor. We are the ones that are responsible. And even if we go to a church and we see things that are wrong in that church or wrong and people are being wronged and we not say anything, we're just as guilty. We are. Anyone before we close? Tony, you muted.
You know,
Okay.
and it's very true what you said and what other people have said too. But the bottom line is we first got to get the conviction from God, because we all have skeletons in our closet somewhere. And once we start talking with somebody else about an issue, they know our weakness, our issue. So things have changed. We're in a totally new generation. Before, in the day, you got your mom, your aunt, cousin would discipline you. Now you can't even touch those kids anymore. So kids know that. So yeah, it's a generation now that we are lost. And just like talking with our daughter, our kids about, my daughter is 10 years old. We sit her down, we talk to her, say, look, you can talk to us about anything. We are here for you. We want to know everything. Every day she come in, I ask her, how was her day? How's everything going? I'm trying to have that open conversation with her. But yes, there are cell phones. There are things that she can get into. And there has been a time that when she was 8 years old, we took her phone. Mommy did it. I'm not phone savvy, but she found a website that was pornographic at 8-year-old. So we talked about it. We locked it out. But there are people out there that know how to get to where kids are. So we try to monitor everything we possibly could. But I'm not gonna say it's my wife. That's why today she's having a hard day. I mean, it's a tough job. Like I said, it still take a village to raise a child, but it takes both of us, and it's still a hard job because the adversary out there is trying to find a way to get to where he want to get to. But the thing about it is, only thing we got left is one thing: is prayer. Even in the church. It's not the same anymore because the pastor's doing the same thing that the congregation is doing. It's there. But only thing we got to do is be right ourselves with Christ. We got to pray. We got to fast. We got to go back and pray and fast until something happens. Just like a business, you're not going to stop it. If you believe in that business, you're going to pray, you're going to fast until it begins to manifest. So collectively, that's what we got to do. But I mean, I still believe overall, as I said, Christ is soon to come. But prayer, but God said things are done by fasting and praying. So we got to put our head down. We got to pray in season. We not just got to pray. We got to find somebody connected. People pray for the world. I don't pray for the world. You know why? Because I don't want to pray for everybody that's in the world. I need to pray for specific people that I need to put my heart on the altar for them. People praying for the world. This world would never be the same ever again. So collectively, we got to pray for each other. We got to lift each other up. We got to let you know truthfully, because now people won't even tell you. You go to them and ask them, I want your honest opinion. Don't ask me, because honestly, I would tell you. I won't say anything because I doesn't want to hurt your feeling. That is a good side of me. So, if you ask me again, then I'm going to share it with you because I want you to grow in it. Sometimes you tell a person something they don't want to hear, they're mad at you. They don't think that you want them to grow. So we got to say, you know what, Christ, am I going to live for you or not? I'm going to pray for you or not. It's one way. It's only one way. And we got to say, we got to commit. We have to make that commitment. And everything is Christ first. And then we can stand boldly in a church, anything else, and say, you know what, Pastor, what you did was wrong. But you go to that person in love and you share it with them. But it's prayer. That is a tool of everything right now. It's prayer, because this country is lost. I'm not even talking about another country. I'm talking about our country right now. And we can see it in politics. I just look at Liz Cheney for a second. She's the only one that's standing on her 2 flat feet and speaking the truth. And it hurts everybody else. They want to outcast her because she want to do the right thing.
Because they get convicted.
Right. But Christ got to come in. That's the only way. Right now with her, it's Christ. And she's a Republican, but I know what I'm praying for. I have to pray for her.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Nobody don't want to know the truth anymore. They want to make the lie work. And that's the way the church is the same way. It's the same way. But we got to say, who are we going to stand for?
Yeah.
Church is just like you go there to get empowered, but most of all, it's the word, it's prayer. That's the only thing that is left, is prayer.
Yeah. But church, again, go back to Steve, church is the hospital where the sick are. They come there to get help. So we are the doctors, okay, those who have gotten well, okay, but still the ones that are in the pew, they're still sick. So we need to step up to the plate and, like Tony said, pray. But that's what the Bible says. My people
Prayer
perish
fast.
first of all for lack of knowledge. What is the knowledge? The knowledge is the word of God. We don't, how many people even talk about God anymore out in public? I mean, you don't have to answer me, but I'm just saying, how many people do you know literally say or tell people about God, talk to them about God? It's kind of almost like we're ashamed of it. That's how it's gotten now with the church. So that's why I just say, y'all, we just have to do a better job at humble ourselves and pray and turn from our wicked ways. Okay, he's not talking about the heathens. When that Bible statement was, if my people who are called by my name, we are his people. But then he says wicked ways. Well, he wouldn't say wicked ways if we weren't being wicked.
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking about the church. So we have to do a better job. And then that way we can help other people. But if our hearts are not right, seriously, if your heart is not right, you cannot love anybody else the right way. You can't have compassion for anyone else because your heart is not right. So that's the first thing that we start with, the heart. So I'm just saying, we just have to have a better way of communicating Christ to people. Steve, you said you had something?
Yes, well, according to the Bible, there's only 3 types of love according to the word, and that's agape, and that's phileo and eros.
Mm-hmm.
One is a unconditional love, and the phileo is a brotherly sisterly love, and eros is a selfish love. So you definitely want to have the agape or the phileo. You definitely don't want to have the selfish type love. You want to either have the agape love is when you are connected as a couple, loving unconditional, or you can love whoever you want to choose to love unconditional. And you got a brotherly sisterly love, which is phileo, but the eros is the selfish love. When you care nothing about yourself, you care not to share anything with anyone, no ideas, no love, no passion, none whatsoever. So, or that you care too much about yourself. That's the only 3 types of love that's in the Bible. So remember
Well,
that.
we just have to ask ourselves, which one do we have?
Which one exactly?
That's it. Which one do you have? Kaylin?
Yeah.
I was just going to go back to when you were saying about the church being judgmental and things being hidden in the closet. And I think, I don't want to speak for the masses, but in our generation, we're straying away from the church, and we believe a lot of people believe that God is with us. And I know that you're supposed to come together and worship together, but a lot of the times, you do face the judgment. And I do see, even in college, a lot of people do give thanks to God, and they post about it, but it's just not within the church. And I think the judgment of that, the church and the older generation, even down to what you wear. Now churches are beginning to let us dress down, but whereas before, if you wore jeans, you'd be talked about all week. And I think that that's the type of judgment that strays the younger generation away from church.
That's good. That's very good. So what do you think we should do about that from your standpoint? And then Tiffany, I want to hear from you as well.
I think platforms like this and reaching the younger generation where they are, through social media, and maybe getting a hold of media, because we get a lot of influence through music, a lot of gospel songs. A lot of people do hear the word through song. So even changing the way that you're delivering the word helps deliver to people meeting where they are, basically.
That's good, Kaylin. Thank you. Tiffany?
I agree with what Kaylin was saying in terms of with the younger generation, the approach has to be different than what it was you know, decades ago, because in terms of like, nowadays, if you're not a child's parent and you go and tell them something, off the bat, a lot of them, depending on what household they grew up in, they'll have like a guard up, like, who are you? You're not my parent. You can't talk to me. When growing up, I had to have a certain amount of respect for my elders, because if I didn't, guess what? They're going to let me know about myself. And then when I get home, my parents are going to say something and or do something, pat, something about it, you know?
Yeah,
That
That's
doesn't
right.
happen these days, because not only do a lot of youth not have a respect for other adults, they don't even have respect for their parents. So, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And part of that is because, and I'm not a parent, so I don't want to come off as judgmental, but the parenting is very different than what it was, you know, in the past. And I do think that times do change and things do change. Of course, the Bible never changes. The word of God never changes, but our approach and how we feed it to people has to, because what worked for my grandparents may not work for me.
That's
and what
right.
works
Right.
for me may not work for the future generations. And
That's
so,
right.
not to get on a whole tangent, but even if we're talking about, because Kaylin did bring up music. So with music, you know, I remember when Kirk Franklin's song Stomp came out.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, there was a big to-do about it because Cheryl Salt James was on the record. And typically she would do R&B. But she was in the process of God changing her heart and her mind towards the church and, you know, bringing her in more to it and away from the R&B world. But people judged her. And if anything, it pushed her more back out than bringing her in, you know? And so, and at the end of the day, there's certain people who may never have heard a gospel song until she was on the song. But it's just like, oh, you know, that's fast music. She is previously or currently, you know, an R&B artist. That's not okay for the church. But we don't know what avenue God is going to use to bring people in.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so that's why we have to stop being so judgmental, because it can be somebody in the midst of sin who can talk to someone and bring them into the church, even if they're still struggling themselves.
Yeah,
So it comes down
that's
to
good. That's
not
good.
judging people for where they are and for who they are. And then also people being transparent, you know, with their struggles. But if people are going to be transparent about their struggles and where they're at, then the church can't, you know, make them feel bad about it, or, you know, and not to say, okay, if you're doing something wrong, not say, okay, this is wrong, you know, it's something that can be worked on. But a lot of times it'll be people pointing fingers at you're doing this wrong and that wrong, but they're doing 3, 4, 5 other things wrong. And so it's certain sins that we always want to point to, that this is not right to do, that's not right to do. But then when are we going to check ourselves and saying, well, guess what? I was gossiping yesterday, or, you know, I was doing thus and so, instead of just looking at this person and saying, oh, they had a baby before marriage, you know? And so it's not only, yes, holding other people accountable, but at the base of it, holding ourselves accountable and saying, what needs to change within myself?
Right.
And along that process of change, how can I help other people?
That's good. That's very good.
Yep, very good.
Anyone else? I think Kaylin had her hand up again, and then Steve. And then we're good. Steve, did you have something? You're good? Okay. Well, guys, this has been awesome. They just keep getting better and better. And I'm thankful that we're all transparent and we're just keeping it real. Isn't that right, Lisa? We're keeping it real, right?
That's right.
All right, my dears. Well, thank you so very much. Next week, same time, different topics. And I'm just thankful that you all are continuing to participate in this. One more thing I forgot. Tony, you talked about the pornography. Kim, you have statistics. So this ties in great. Kim, you have the statistics of that, of marriage and why sometimes marriage break up. And can you give me 2 minutes on that, Kim?
Okay, well, in psychology today, it's basically reported that about 50% of divorces cases involve at least one party having obsessive interest in pornography websites. So it's about 1 million divorces in the United States, about half of those due to pornography in the marriage. And I found something that was kind of profound as well. It's a pornography time statistics, which means every second, $3,075.64 is being spent on pornography. Every second, 3,000. And then every second, 28,258 internet users are viewing porn. And then every second, 372 internet viewers are typing adult search terms.
Wow.
So 372 people, typing it in. But then every 39 minutes, a new pornography video is being created in the United States. So the pornography industry is
booming
out there, really, really wide. And even with that, and I could just remember when my son was much younger, maybe around the age of, I guess when the FaceTime and these videos and stuff were coming out, and I can remember just the good. That's a form of pornography. A young lady was on, a little teenage girl was on the sink showing her private part and her titties. And I was like, I got hold of it. I said, look, I'm getting ready to get in contact with her mama because she's just her body. She is just, I thought it was out there. And that's where I believe it started. And that's when the pornography has just grown into a big monster. So the enemy is having a good time with this. So now you see, as I said, a statistic, $3,075.64 every second is being spent on pornography.
Wow.
And it tears up marriages. So
yes,
yeah,
it does.
And one more thing, even to go into the Bible perspective of it, one of a therapist, his name Greg Smalley, it says 3 ways pornography affect marriages. 1, intimacy is sacrificed. The second one, real relationships are abandoned for an imitation. And then the true purpose of sex gets twisted. So many times, and I've heard people, mainly I have heard men say, oh, it's just for entertainment purposes. I honestly, I'm like, what do you mean entertainment purposes? Where do you go with it? They just say that's just it. I'm saying, like, what entertaining, what,
yeah.
But then they try to, and then they can deal and go to the areas of it can bother the I can say either one, spouse. I say spouse. I'm not going to necessarily say the wife, because they try to the spouse is coming to them with whatever, where they seen something they were hanging from a chandelier or twisted up, and then they want their spouse to do it, and then
yes,
she or he can't do it, and then it makes the intimacy, like I said, it kills it, because I can't live up to that imitation. I can't. That's not real.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So this
I wanted Kim to give that those statistics, but not only that, just a small, and I'll tell you, this is what happened to me recently on my cell phone. I don't know who sent it to me. It was a text, and when I pushed it, the picture, and let me tell you, it's still in my head. And it's not good. It's just not good, okay? Because all I could think of, especially that when I saw it, I was like, and immediately I had to turn it off. But let me tell y'all something. Just that 3 seconds, and I'm still thinking, it still flashes back sometimes. Can you imagine people who constantly do that? It is, for me, it is such a mental disturbance for me. I can't speak for anybody else. I'm not saying that I don't do it, but I just don't want to see anybody else doing it, especially if that kind of stuff. So, let me go back. I don't do it, Let me just make sure I understand.
Because I was gonna ask you, yeah,
I
you
was
did
about to
say-
say the same thing. I was like, wait, did she just confess something?
I-
That's
Yeah.
what?
That's why
Okay.
I'm telling you. That's why
Okay.
the Holy Spirit said, "Hold up, now. You better go back
Wait,
and do
yeah.
that thing again, right?" No, I'm saving myself for marriage. So just make sure that that's clear, okay? So, because I'm telling you, the Holy Spirit is so awesome because He said, "Nope, you go back and say that." But clean it up. But again, it's just disturbing, and that disturbed me. Just that, like I said, 3 seconds. So I can't imagine if you are married to someone and they are constantly looking at that. And let me tell you, it's just not men. Kim and I, we know women who have confessed that they were addicted to pornography. So it's just not the women. I mean, it's just not the men. And because you have to go back to, that is a stronghold. You have to get delivered from that. That is something that because it sticks in your mind. And I'm telling you, I had to go on a fast. I really did. I had to go on a fast and pray and said, Lord, you got to take this. I had to actually root it up. And the Bible says, whatever we bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever we loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. I had to bind that thing, guys. And it still sometimes crosses my mind. So again, we have to constantly make sure that what we see are, and again, it can surprise us, but we have to make sure that we're not doing it deliberately, because it can be a stronghold and it can take hold of your life, and then it will destroy that what God has given you. So on that note, guys, thank you all. This has been wonderful. Any comments before we leave? Any suggestions? Okay, on that note, thank you so very much. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Eureka. She is having a play. Kim, can you tell real quick? Because I forgot about that. Oh.
Okay. It's called Justin's Side. It is opens, the BMP festival is May the 20th through the 24th. You can get tickets at, and maybe I can put it in the chat, but BMP Fest, FEST.veps.com. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah.
And I think it don't say, but I think you said the tickets were $10.
The tickets are, it's actually donation. So you can $10 and up, whatever you want to donate, but it will go for 5 days from May the 20th until the 25th. She wrote it and people are acting in it, but it's a wonderful place. So I just say, please support her. Okay.
Where's it
And
held
that's
at?
It's virtual. It's
Oh,
virtual.
virtual.
So, yeah. So Kim, and it's really good. So Kim is going to put it in the chat real quick for us so that we can get it. And again, just buy the tickets. There it is right there. Go to that website, purchase the tickets, and it'll run for 5 nights. Okay. Because I just believe in we supporting each other. Kim, can you put it back up again?
It's
May the 20th through the 24th. And we need the,
see that.
yeah, but we need the BM.
Can y'all see
Fest.
that?
Yes.
Fest. Do you have it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So thank you all, and we'll see you next week. Y'all have a good week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Okay.
Lenette, do you need us to stay on or?
Yes.
Okay.
Lisa, can you stay on too?
Oh, okay.
All right. You got it. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, this was good, guys. I think this was one of our best. I mean, it keeps getting better, but I think this was one of our best. And we didn't have all the people that we usually have. But what do you all think?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was really great.
Mm-hmm.
So
What do y'all think?
I like when the younger girls talk.
Me
because
too.
it gives
That was
us
good.
it gives us a view of another generation, because
Mhm.
all of us are most of us are from around the same time
Mhm.
generation. So it to me is eye-opening when we get, and that they're willing to share.
Yeah.
their experience or their thoughts, or on different subjects that are brought up through the meeting. So
Right.
I always like to hear that.
I thought that was, I mean, they were really on point. They
Yeah.
really were. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm impressed with them. I really am. What about dang, that was good, y'all, about, wow, that was good. And the statistics, Kim, that was on
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, that was like, wow. And it was also good to know that Lenette was not swinging from the ceiling fan.
Oh my gosh. Do you know that y'all caught that, didn't you?
I was like, wait, girl.
The Holy Spirit said, go clean that up, girl, because that's not gonna be good.
I was gonna say, well, I ain't gonna judge it, but
like,
maybe she made a mistake. But she came
really
back.
just confess something online, or was it just me?
Okay. Y'all, I'm so thankful that the Holy Spirit said, go back and go. Don't say another word until you go back and clean that one up. That was not, now that wouldn't have been good at all. That really would not have been at all. That was like, whoa, yeah. And go back to what I had to say about, I was trying to call Z, ask her to get up. I was going back to, because I did see in the book where I said that people can do what they want to do. It depends on what they want to do, but that's not true. Not true at all. So that's why I had to go and clean that one back up too. So yeah, but overall, I think it was good. And Z, can you get back on real quick? I'm sorry. Can you get back on? Oh, okay. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you when we finish. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So what do we talk about as far, because that bestiality was
Well, and like when I was saying that, okay, before marriage, what was her name? Robin. But before marriage, that is not like, you're probably not going to talk about, well, yeah, I sleep with animals or something like, but it may not be, and it may not be something, it may come up sex, but getting to that part, if they do, I don't think that's going to be.
When you ask that question now that we've talked about this, wouldn't you ask that question? I know I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, well, excuse me now. I just have to ask you something. It might sound way out of the way, but I just need to ask you, okay, have you been with a man? Have you ever been with a dog? Have you been with a cow? I just need you to tell me so I can make up in my mind whether we.
But the thing that struck me is that this isn't something new, that this was happening way back in the Bible.
Yes. Yes.
And the fact that it had to be actually put in the Bible to say
even, yes, okay.
But you know that there's no new thing under the sun.
Exactly. That's just an example right there. That's an example right there. Exactly. Prime example right there.
Now, God told Moses, now, look, tell these people. So obviously it was going on, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Nothing new under the sun.
And that's what I was saying, even and like, I can't remember who was it that brought it up, that said that, it could be people that's naive or virgin or whatever the case, that do not know or about those type of things. But like, and I understand once you get into the marriage, is someone else out here?
Wait a minute, I forgot to stop the recording. Wait a minute.